Hello everybody, this is Scott, the Cowboy Counselor here again, where we ignore social mores and decency and just kind of do whatever the hell we want. This is a cross that I just got done putting on my hunting tomahawk that I probably made 20 years ago. It's got some copper pins in here, and since I learned how to solder a little bit better, I've just been going through and adding some decorative type stuff on some of my old tomahawks and axes and things that I have. So I thought that came out pretty cool. Actually, what I'm going to be introducing today, I'm starting on a restoration project. And what this is, it's an old weather vane off a barn that a friend of mine, I believe, got off of his grandfather's place. And it had blown down and gotten damaged. So this is actually the base of it. The piece de resistance here is actually the top of it. So this is actually amazing. It's made out of copper. Obviously a deer, you can see that. And this is some serious Art Deco type stuff. And it's absolutely amazing. It doesn't have a bunch of bullet holes in it. I grew up in farm country back in Indiana, and I don't know that there was a decorative weather vane anywhere that didn't have at least 4 or 5 22 rounds going through it from some farm kid shooting at it. Not me, of course. Okay, it was me. All right, so this is an amazing piece, and what I want to do, he wants to not only preserve it, he also wants to be able to mount it back up on his chicken coop or barn, I believe. And what the issue was, it's made out of copper, and back in Ohio, it blew off of the top of that barn in a windstorm, and you can see where somebody soldered it back together, like here on the base, and really didn't do a half bad job. That's pretty solid. But it broke off again, and the copper mounting piece that was actually original snapped off as well. So rather than trying to like repair what's here, what we agreed on doing, I'm gonna use a piece of steel tubing and go up in through here and then try to braze this to the steel tubing and then fix this split. And then we're going to try to mount it on a steel base and then weld that steel pipe onto that and then braze this onto this. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's been sitting here in my shop for about a year, and we've been talking about how we're gonna go about this. I think this is gonna work, and I think he's gonna be happy with it. This is a peaceful fence post, but it's steel, it's light gauge. It's close enough to the thickness of this. I don't think I'll have as much trouble spot brazing it on, and then we may even be able to like clamp it down so that it doesn't wobble in the wind. It'll spin and hopefully not snap off. I love this piece, and I even suggested to him, just for what it is, you almost could have shined this up and mounted it on a stand just as a decorative piece. But as it were, we're gonna restore it to, it's gonna be sitting on this base when it's done, and hopefully work again. It'll spin with the wind. These were really popular back in the Midwest where I grew up, and I don't know that I really see them as much out here in the West. Maybe they're around and I just don't notice them. But I'm looking forward to starting on this project, so I will try to film as I go and maybe even explain a little bit on what I'm doing. And all right, let's get to it. Okay, one of the first things I had to do, this is the piece of pipe that we're gonna use in place of the copper that was originally on there. So Josh provided this, and it is a pretty good fit. It was really tight. So what I did is I cleaned off the shaft of the weather vane. So this, and then I went ahead and kind of like bored this out a little bit, actually with a gun cleaning rod. I just went through with a 30 caliber gun cleaning rod with hops number 9. And that's gonna fit on there really well because it's important that it spins easily because it's a weather vane. So I'm gonna go to the grinder and clean this up just so I have clean surfaces to weld and braze to. I'm gonna go do that now. Okay, as before we do anything, safety equipment, safety glasses. I wanna wear hearing protection because I already have tinnitus really bad. Yeah. Do the whole thing about like that. I won't make you sit here and watch the whole thing. Okay, the hole that I need to like run this rod up through so I can go up the leg of the deer, it's not quite big enough. So I'm gonna grab a drill bit and just try to like hone that out. With it being copper, I feel like I could almost just twist it around by hand, but I'm gonna go on a drill bit and do this. Okay, I've got that bored out a little bit now, and I think cooking with gas here. Yep, perfect. So now that's what I wanted, was that to be able to go up in there. So now I can attach this to this, and then this to this, and then slide that down over the weather vane shaft. Okay, I've got my piece of pipe completely polished off, and I've got my bottom piece here. So now what I've done is I kind of honed out a hole in that. So now I'm going to go over the heart of the anvil. I'm going to go ahead and work this through it. And this is going to become the base. So I'll probably going to use my MIG welder to attach that. I want to go check my measurements and make sure before I get too carried away. Actually, that's got to be all the way through, because that's got to go up into the deer, and I think it's about that much that needs to be left over. So I might go ahead and put it together and see what it looks like before I start welding and tacking and brazing and doing everything else I'm going to do. Okay, I hope you can see it now. This is what it's going to look like together. So there's that base piece, and it looks like it turns really well on there. I don't know, I'm probably going to slide that deer like further down onto that. But this is going to be brazed, because this is all copper. I can't weld it, but I can braze it to that base and then figure out some other way to support it. But I'm liking the way that looks right now. It spins. So that's what we have so far. Old weather vane. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and MIG weld this into place. And I'd love to be able to use my stick welder on this, but I just feel like I'm going to weaken this or burn through it, because that's pretty light gauge. So I'm at least going to spot it in here with the MIG welder. Okay, we are on day 2 now of the restoration of the old wind vane. So I've got my piece of pipe welded on now to my base, and I went ahead and cleaned a lot of the paint off of that old fence post, just so I have something to braze to, and then just to reduce the amount of paint smoke that's going to be coming off of that. So where we've gotten onto now is we've got this piece, and now this piece will slide onto there and actually turn, so as it's supposed to in the wind. And then the deer will be mounted on to that. So now what we have to figure out how to do, the deer itself is pretty damaged. And so I'm gonna have to go to bracing. You can see this leg is split all the way up through the body, all the way up through underneath it here. So I'm gonna have to heat and use my brazing rod for all of that, and then braze this onto our base that we just built. So let's get going with that. Okay, I've got the deer sitting up at an upright angle so I can get down in here and hopefully braze the brass part of this deer onto the steel base that we just built and we just cleaned up. So let me get this camera up here where we can see a little bit better. You like right there. And I'm just gonna try to like spot a couple of pieces in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and light the torch, maybe. Again, safety first whenever you're playing with fire. Go slow. I'm just gonna heat a spot up here and see what luck I have getting that to stick. So I heat the steel first. So I'm going to try to get over here to the other end and put a stick on this end. I don't think I need quite that much air. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna pop my clamps off and just kind of double check my work and, whoops. That looks to be pretty solid. Let's try it. I'm gonna stop and double check everything before I get into too big of a hurry and make a big mistake, which I am prone to do. I need a camera person. Okay. All right, making progress. Right on. Okay. That is gonna work good. That brazed on there pretty well too. I can see a couple of ratty spots here. Didn't quite get it as good as I wanted to, but it does feel like it's solid. Yeah, I'm gonna add a little bit more braze to the base, and then I'm gonna start repairing all of these splits in the brass, which is gonna be gonna have to go a little bit more carefully because that's thin. A lot of cracks. Okay, I've got this leg clamped back together and still have a pretty good sized gap in there. But I've got to do this belly up here where it's split and run a bead along there as well. And if I really want to screw this piece up, I can get into a hurry right now and blow a bunch of holes in it, start making a bunch of mistakes. So I'm just going to take my time and do a little bit at a time. Okay, I think I'm gonna call this a win. Pretty much, we've got it all repaired. It's pretty solid, or very solid. I think, I don't know how much of a wind strain they're gonna get, but in this part of the country, I would always plan on 100 miles an hour. And for this thing, it's gonna spin in the wind anyway, so I don't think it's gonna have a lot of like wobble on it or shear. I think if it gets hit by a hard wind, it'll just be going with the wind, which is what a wind vane is supposed to do. It's supposed to point in the direction of these directionals down here. So let's actually, I know that's west, that's north. So if the wind was blowing from the north, and that's probably north, yeah, kind of gives you an idea. So, pretty cool. But I'm pleased with that. I don't think it's sure as heck not going to break easily. It is really solid. I'll probably grease this down here. I think this could be polished up a lot more. I just ran a little bit of sandpaper over to bring up the high points, but I'm not sure what the owner wants to do with it. But you could go with some copper polish and really bring that out and it would be beautiful. You can see it shiny down here where I repaired it and then reattached it. And yeah, it'd be kind of neat to see this thing mounted. So maybe if he puts it back up on his barn or anything, maybe we'll do that. I'll do a video of actually what that looks like mounted. All right. Yeah, I really enjoyed the heck out of that, which is half the point of doing some of these projects. I like restoration because you really get to have your hands on history and you feel like you're prolonging a piece that might have ended up in the scrap pile or getting sold by the pound. So hopefully this thing will go for, who knows, maybe another 100 years. It'll almost certainly outlive me. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe and enjoy. Have a great week. God bless.